So sure enough, I go out there, there's a bunch of thugs all lined up. All I hear is jib jab going back and forth. And while I'm separating it, things are quiet, but then shot comes around my shoulder and cracks the main dude in the face.
I like gang stuff.
I am not gang gang. You know what I'm saying? I do not gang gang.
I don't like gangs. I don't like conspiracy. I don't like the word Rico. Like none of that. So,
you see the young boys say.
The relationship started to go south with 50.
You know, I was tolerating a lot of undesired energy.
Right.
50 Cent's former bodyguard is spilling the truth about what really went down with the Crips and why tensions have remained high ever since. We're talking about bribery, coercion, and individuals trying to confront 50, forgetting that he lived that life long before he became famous. For those who know, 50 Cent's street name was Boo Boo, and even back then, people knew not to cross him.
With Boo Boo, I'm not even calling 50. 50 was a street that basically said the street shit, but was still involved in the street shit and started rapping. You understand what I'm saying?
But let's be clear. 50 has always been upfront about one thing. He's not affiliated with any gang. He's said it countless times, and honestly, it makes sense. When artists enter certain neighborhoods, they often have to pay local gangs. For security, it's like an unofficial street tax. But 50? He never played by those rules. And because of that, he found himself in conflict with some serious figures in the streets, people with real influence. One encounter in particular left Spider Loc shaken, so much so that when things got heated within G Unit, he walked away without even standing up for himself.
We've always made early residents. I am not gang. I do not gang bang.
I do not like Rico. I do not like conspiracy. Keep both of those brothers away from me. These laws were designed to bring down the mafia. When you think crime in general, right? And then like when they would run into it, they go, this is way. It's not the neighborhood stuff. This is the other stuff.
What's interesting is that 50 Cent was never tied to any gang. He grew up in the streets, but always moved independently. He built his own team, stood his ground against major crews, and handled his business after being arrested at 19 for selling. To an undercover officer, police discovered a stash and a firearm in his possession. That was the turning point. He knew it was time to leave that life behind.
50 was the type of dude, he was outside when he was 12 years old. You know, his mother and father, he didn't have too much knowledge of them. He had knowledge of his mother, but his father.
However, Spider Loc, a committed Crip, attempted to establish a movement called G Unit Crips. Out of loyalty, 50 and the rest of G Unit tried to support him. They even let him bring 100 Crips on stage during performances. But that alliance brought nothing but trouble at one show. The entire event had to be shut down because the crowd was packed with rival Bloods.
you know, Buck really with, you know, Spider Loc and the Crips in LA. You know me, New York, so I don't really know LA politics.
Against my advice, he prompted the homies to take the stage with him, and he announced to the San Diego crowd something to the effect of, "What's wrong with this picture? I'm a New York, the 100 Crips on stage."
And it didn't stop there. Spider Loc's music video sets were being targeted, and rival gangs were constantly pulling up. It became too dangerous. Eventually, 50 had enough. He saw how the gang affiliations were bad for business and decided to cut ties with Spider Loc.
Into a whole bunch of detail. I told the story plenty of times, but him doing that triggered some irritation from the crowd. And one thing led to another, and there were items going back and forth from the crowd to the stage.
He showed up in the club video. He came, it was like, Sugar's outside, Sugar's outside. Everybody like, he was running, dropping shit. Like, man, everybody going, I'm in front of the camera like this.
But Spider Loc isn't the only one who's had problems with 50 over the years. 50 Cent has clashed with some of the most powerful and dangerous figures in the industry, situations that could have easily turned deadly. Yet somehow, he always manages to come out on top. Let's go back to March 24, 2000. 50 Cent was stabbed outside the Hit Factory studio in New York. And the reason? His legendary feud with J. Rule and Murder, Inc. Let's take a step back to March 24, 2000, one of the most defining moments in 50 Cent's history. That night, outside the Hit Factory studio in New York, he was stabbed in the back. And the reason? His infamous feud with J. Rule and Murder, Inc. all started when J. Rule was in Queens shooting a music video and one of 50's associates snatched his chain. From that moment on, things escalated quickly. Murder Inc.'s top executives, Irv Gotti and Chris Gotti, got involved, allegedly putting hands on 50. However, the charges against them were later dismissed. Later that night, at the Hit Factory, Murder Inc. artist Blackchild took things even further. He stabbed 50 Cent. Blackchild later claimed self-defense, saying he thought someone had a weapon. 50 suffered a stab wound that required 3 stitches. But if you know anything about him, you know he wasn't going to let it slide. And let's be real, 50 Cent's level of pettiness is unmatched. Even when Irv Gotti recently passed away, 50 wasted no time throwing shade. Right after the news broke, he posted a picture of himself smoking hookah next to a fake gravestone, captioning it, "I'm smoking on that Gotti pack. Nah, God bless him. LOL." But Ja Rule wasn't the only one who had a falling out with 50. Another name that comes up is Em Smurf, one of 50's day one associates. They were tight before fame, but when 50 blew up, things took a nasty turn. By the time Hot 97's Summer Jam rolled around in 2004, their beef had hit an all-time high. 50 and G-Unit were on stage performing when Bang Em Smurf, Domination, and the Silverback Gorilla Crew pulled up, standing front row. And they weren't there to enjoy the show. They came to taunt 50. It didn't take long before chaos erupted. 50 and Lloyd Banks started throwing cash at Bang Em Smurf, mocking him in front of the crowd. When that wasn't enough, 50 took it a step further. He threw water at him, humiliating him even more. That was the last straw for Smurf. He tried jumping over the barricade while his crew started hurling chairs at G-Unit. Even DJ Whoo Kid, who was DJing that night, admitted he didn't expect things to spiral so fast. But this is 50 Cent's world. Drama follows him everywhere, and beefs like this are just part of the game. One of the biggest fallouts in hip-hop history, 50 Cent versus the game. It wasn't just a rap beef, it was a full-blown war. And it all started in 2005 when 50 and Game were both signed to Interscope Records. At first, everything seemed smooth. 50 helped put the game on, writing hooks for his debut album, The Documentary, which went on to sell over 5 million copies. But behind the scenes, tension was building. The breaking point came when 50 expected Game to ride with him in his beefs, especially against Jadakiss, Fat Joe, and Nas. But Game had different plans. He made it clear he wasn't picking sides, and that rubbed 50 the wrong way. Then, in February 2005, during an interview at Hot 97, 50 publicly announced he was kicking the Game out of G-Unit. And that's when things exploded. That same night, Game and his crew pulled up to the radio station, trying to confront 50. Shots were fired outside, and one of Game's associates got hit. From that moment on, it was all-out war. They dropped countless diss tracks, Game with 300 bars and runnin' and pest control, and 50 with Not Rich, Still Lyin'. It was no longer just about music, it was personal. The two would later call a truce, even reuniting on stage years later. But the damage was done. And if you ask 50 today, he still doesn't respect Game, even clowning him recently for claiming he wrote What Up Gangsta. At this point, it's safe to say 50 Cent is the undisputed king of rap beefs. Whether it's Ja Rule, The Game, or even newer artists like Rick Ross, 50 never backs down. He thrives on conflict, using it as fuel for his brand. And let's be honest, most rappers who went against 50 ended up either fading away or taking massive L's. Ja Rule's career was never the same. The Game lost his G-Unit affiliation. And even Rick Ross, despite still being around, has had to constantly defend himself against 50's trolling. But here's the thing, 50's beefs aren't just about drama. He's a calculated businessman. He knows controversy sells, and he's mastered the art of turning every feud into more attention, more money, and more success. Love him or hate him, one thing is certain, nobody plays the game like 50 Cent. If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment. Who do you think really won these beefs?